All right, so there's a new Indian horror film on Netflix, which its translation is The Devil, according to Google. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the movie. I don't know how it is. They do sing it in this movie. I kept trying to listen to it to be like the Shaitaan, something like that. Shaitaan? I think that's what I heard, but I did try to pronounce it. I lied. Okay, whatever it is. So now this is a remake of another Indian film from just last year. But this is actually fairly, I don't want to say it's fairly typical, but this is not something that is rare, where, you know, a lot of people, when they think of India in Indian cinema, they think of Bollywood. And Bollywood is not the only, like, big production, place that they make films in India. There's Tollywood, and there's a whole video. Patrick H. Williams did a fantastic video breaking down Indian cinema for laymen, for Americans like us, or at least some of us anyway. And so that one was in a different language, and so they remade it here in Hindi, and they recast the daughter from the first movie and put her in here. And so this is about a family who they're going off to their like getaway place, and a man befriends them along the way, and he puts a spell on one of them, and there's some black magic, and he's the devil. I mean, that's literally the name of the film. So that's not much of a spoiler. So one thing with Indian cinema, and I don't have a lot of experience with it, RRR from like maybe a year ago, was like one of the more fun films I've seen in recent memory. So that actually opened me up to Indian cinema a little more than I had previously been. But I don't know much about Indian cinema. So, but what I have seen, we get this opening, and I thought we were setting up something like Taken. That's very much what it felt like. They made him like Liam Neeson's character in Taken, and I was like, oh, okay, we're seeing all of his talents, and we're seeing how he is. But there's such like a silliness, a playfulness to their scenes, the music, the family bonding. All of it is very goofy. And that is very similar to a lot of like Indian films that I've seen. Like they're very unironically sincere and sweet, as to where we would find that very cringe. They embrace it. And so this has a lot of that in the opening. This movie is over 2 hours long, at like 2 hours and like 10, 12, somewhere in that minutes. And we take a long time, and we're really building up the family dynamic. We're really trying to buy in to their relationship as a family. And I was pretty attached. I liked them. I liked the dad and the mom and the son and the daughter. Like, they did a good job with that. It's cheesy, it's corny, you roll your eyes a bit, but you just kind of embrace it. If you're someone who is familiar with Indian cinema at all, you kind of know what to expect. So it's kind of par for the course. From the outside looking in. I think if you're there and you're super used to these kinds of movies, then you're like, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't we do that? That's what we do. But I don't know, man. So the movie actually reminds me of a few different films. As I had said originally, Taken. Then I would throw in Speak No Evil, because you just have this like nice guy who's kind of antagonizing a couple with their kids, and they're kind of powerless to do anything about it. But even so, more so here, because he's, more powerful. So that actually cuts out the dynamic that I don't like about Speak No Evil. I do still find a lot of issues with how the family reacts and doesn't immediately like try to kill this guy. And I feel like just a few dialogue tweaks would immediately let the audience know that's not a possibility, that option is eliminated. They do it later in the film, but it should have been done much earlier, and I still don't feel like they drive the point home enough. I could have worked on this script with them for a day and just added a couple little tweaks to just saying, okay, the reason that they can't just kill him immediately like they would try to is because of this. He would just say this, or he would just do that, or this would happen with the character, whatever. So that was a problem I was having, but I was just trying to go along with it and say, okay, this is how we're going to do things. It is what it is. And I do struggle with that a bit, but if the movie's entertaining enough, I can look past it. This movie's way too long. This movie easily could have been done in an hour and a half. I don't know if Indian films typically run too long, but of course, this one for me felt just like it drug out for too long. In addition to that, I just found a lot of what ends up happening in this film to just be pretty, I'll say, predictable. I definitely knew a couple things as soon as I saw them. I'm like, that's going to come back into this film. That's going to play a role here. And this is how it's going to play out. And I was pretty much dead on about all of that stuff. Another film that I would liken this to would be Storm of the Century. This feels super similar to Storm of the Century, right? You'll know it if you've seen it, why and how it's connected. But it felt like that. I like Storm of the Century much more. This one ended up not being something that I enjoyed all that much, albeit a fun little experience with the cheesy opening, some of the family dynamic, wanting to kind of see where this progressed and ended up climaxing at. And in the end, I also found the ending to be a tad obvious, forced, and convenient. But there is a tacked on epilogue that I did quite like. That was actually some cold shit that I was like, oh, okay, I dig that. That was cool. And I like the dialogue there. I like how it ends. And I would liken that to another movie, but I'm going to save that because that might feel spoilery. So I don't know. I think if you're a huge fan of Indian cinema, I don't know about the first movie. I didn't see it. I can't comment on it. I think it's called like Vosh or something. But I would assume it's very similar. Yeah, this I think as an American, there's a certain kind of disconnect from the conveniences or the tropes of other countries' cinema, and you learn those tropes, right? Some films just throw all tropes out the door, no matter what country they're in. But most films usually play to the tropes of their country. And this, I think, is one of those films. And as an American, it's not a trope that I really can get on board with. So your mileage may vary depending on your likes and dislikes or where you're from. But I really wanted to like this more, especially with that runtime and especially with the family building and the dynamic and all of that stuff. I didn't in the end. I didn't hate it, but man, it could have been 40 minutes shorter. It could have tweaked some of the dialogue to make it more tense. There could have been more antagonizing to drive the point home. The ending could have been more impactful by being a little more risky. And also I would, and then on, in addition to all of that, I would just keep the ending we have, the epilogue. So that's how I would tweak things for myself. This is an opinion, of course. If you loved it, that's fantastic. I don't think there's going to be a lot of Americans reviewing this film and talking about it, but it is popular on Netflix right now. It did pop up on there, as are other ones that I'm looking at right now that I'm going to watch as well. But I'll report back on those. But for this one, you know, take that information, do with it what you will, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.